The sun beat down mercilessly on the cracked asphalt as Maya Johnson walked home from school, the weight of her faded backpack pulling gently at her shoulders. At just 10 years old, she was used to the heat, the long walk, and the stares from passing cars that barely noticed her. But today, something caught her attention. A shiny red Mustang parked awkwardly on a roadside, its gaping open like a wounded animal. Beside it stood a man in a suit too expensive for this neighborhood, shouting into his phone, "I don't care how much the tow costs. I have a meeting with the governor in 2 hours." His gold watch flashed in the sunlight as he paced. Maya slowed her steps, curiosity flickering in her wide brown eyes. Her Aunt Lisa always warned her about strangers, but something about the man's frustration made her pause. She adjusted her backpack and stepped closer. "Excuse me, sir," she called out, her voice small but firm. "Need help with your car?" The man glanced at her, eyebrows raised. "You?" He scoffed. "Sweetheart, this is a Shelby GT500. Maya smiled. "I know. That's why your coolant's leaking." The man blinked, unsure whether to laugh or be offended. His name was Robert Dalton, CEO of Dalton Tech, and one of the wealthiest men in the state. He had built an empire of smart cars, drones, and military-grade tech. But right now, he was helpless beside his very real, very broken-down Mustang. "You're joking, right?" he said, eyeing the girl's dusty sneakers and oversized shirt. But Maya had already dropped her bag on the pavement and was kneeling beside the car. She opened her worn backpack and pulled out a small red metal case. It clicked open to reveal a compact set of tools, each piece carefully organized, some clearly handmade. "I'm not joking," she said simply, tucking her braids behind her ear. "My uncle taught me how to fix engines before I could write cursive." Robert's phone slipped from his hand and landed in the passenger seat. He glanced around. No help in sight, no tow truck, no signal. "Fine. Knock yourself out," he muttered, stepping back. Maya popped the hood further and peered in, squinting in the sunlight. "When did it start overheating?" she asked. "About 30 minutes ago," he replied. "I was going 70 down the highway, and the engine light came on. Pulled off when the steam started." "Did it smell sweet?" she asked, her voice focused, clinical. "Like syrup?" Robert frowned. "Yeah, weirdly, yes." "Coolant leak," she confirmed, pointing toward a tiny green puddle forming beneath the radiator. "That's ethylene glycol. You've got a cracked hose, probably from pressure buildup." Robert stood there, speechless. She sounded like one of his engineers. Maya reached into her toolkit and pulled out a heat-resistant tape roll. With swift, confident hands, she wrapped the compromised section of hose, her fingers moving with the precision of someone far beyond her age. "This won't hold forever," she said, glancing up, "but it'll get you to the city." Robert stared, caught between disbelief and a strange sense of déjà vu. There was something about the girl, her confidence, her vocabulary, her movements, that tugged at a distant memory. And then he saw it. As Maya reached to close the hood, her baggy T-shirt lifted slightly, revealing a faded maroon logo printed across her chest. Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Robert's breath caught. He stepped closer. "Where did you get that shirt?" Maya looked down at it. "Oh, this," she said. "It was my mom's. She used to wear it all the time. Said she wanted me to grow into it." "Your mother went to MIT?" he asked, tone shifting. Maya shook her head. "No. She cleaned classrooms there. Picked it up from the donation bin. Said knowledge rubs off. Like magic." She smiled, the way kids do when they repeat something they've heard their whole lives. Robert felt a lump rise in his throat. His eyes scanned her face again. There was something familiar in her eyes, in the way she smiled. "What's your name?" he asked. "Maya," she said. "Maya Johnson." That name, Johnson, hit him like a punch to the gut. He remembered it from somewhere. Years ago, before the company, before the money, before everything got complicated. "You live nearby?" She nodded. "Just down the road. With my Aunt Lisa and Uncle Ray." Robert felt the phone buzz in his pocket again, but he ignored it. "You know a lot about engines," he said, his voice softer now. Maya shrugged. "I just like fixing broken things." She began packing up her tools. The job was done. The car, at least for now, was road-ready again. But for Robert Dalton, something far more complicated had just broken open. A memory, a face, a name, all tied to a past he thought was buried. Maya, he repeated, almost himself. The name rang in his ears like an echo from another life. Robert offered to drive her home as thanks. Maya hesitated for a moment. Her aunt had warned her about getting in strangers' cars, but something about his eyes told her he wasn't dangerous. Just confused, maybe even lost. I guess that's fair, she said, brushing a streak of grease from her cheek. Since I just saved you $100 tow. He smiled faintly, opening the passenger door for her. The drive was quiet at first, the Mustang humming softly under the temporary fix she'd applied. Robert glanced at her from time to time, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't quite piece together. So, Maya, he said casually, what do you want to be when you grow up? She didn't even pause. Mechanical engineer. Or maybe aerospace. I like machines, especially ones that fly. Robert chuckled. Ambitious. Not really, she replied. Just logical. They turned down a gravel road that led into a quiet neighborhood lined with small, worn homes and children playing barefoot in the dirt. Maya pointed toward a blue-painted house with a rusted mailbox and a flowering hibiscus bush by the window. That's me, she said. He slowed the car, parking in front of the house. Before she could open the door, he spoke again. Your mother, Diana, right? Maya looked at him, surprised. Yeah, she passed away last year. You knew her? Robert's heart dropped. The name confirmed it. Diana Johnson. Years ago, she had worked as custodian at MIT. Smart, kind, always reading books in the hallway while mopping the floors. He had only spoken to her twice, once about a guest lecture, and once when she was crying outside the admissions office. Just heard the name before. He lied quickly. Maya nodded and reached into her bag. As she zipped it closed, something tumbled out onto the center console, a small copper pendant shaped like a gear, hanging from a leather cord. Robert picked it up carefully. This yours. She took it gently from his hand. It was hers. She wore it every day. Robert stared at it. He remembered that pendant. Diana had worn it during their second and last conversation, right before she disappeared. Can I give you something? He asked suddenly, reaching into his pocket. He handed her a business card. It was sleek, embossed in silver. Robert Dalton, C.O., Dalton Tech. Maya raised an eyebrow. That sounds important. He smiled. Sometimes. If you ever need anything, school help tools, recommendations, you call me. She studied him, not quite understanding why a man like him would care so much. But she accepted the card. Okay, she said. Thanks, Mr. Dalton. She got out and walked toward the house. Robert watched her go, the copper pendant glinting in the sunlight, her oversized MIT shirt fluttering behind her like a cape. He sat still in the car for several minutes, heart pounding. He pulled out his phone and dialed. Marcus, he said when a voice answered. It's me. I need you to look into someone for me. Name's Maya Johnson. 10 years old. Lives in Eastbridge. Her mother was Diana Johnson. She used to work at MIT and maybe at Little Birch Orphanage before that. There was a long pause on the other end. Little Birch? Marcus asked. That place was shut down a decade ago. Some kind of scandal. I know, Robert replied. I need everything you can find. And Marcus, be careful. I think this girl is connected to something we missed. Later that night, Maya sat in the small workshop behind her house, a cramped shed filled with wires, old radios, and salvage machine parts. The walls were covered in diagrams and sketches she'd made, most of them copied from memory or pieced together from library books. The place smelled like oil and metal, but to Maya, it was home. Uncle Ray stepped in, wiping his hands with a rag. Thought I'd find you here, he said with a smile. You fixed the radio yet? Maya held up the old 1950s box, reconnected the coils. Works like new. He laughed, shaking his head. You've got magic in those hands, kid. Maya set the radio down and hesitated. Uncle Ray, "Do you remember a man named Robert Dalton?" The smile faded from Ray's face. "Why?" "His car broke down today. I fixed it. He gave me a ride home." She handed him the card. He asked about Mom. Ray took the card, stared at the name, and then slowly sat down on the workbench stool. Dalton Tech. She nodded. He knew Mom's name, said it sounded familiar. Ray glanced toward the house, then back at her. "Your aunt and I always promised we'd tell you more when you were older," he said, voice low. "I think that time is now." Maya leaned forward, confused. "Your mother didn't just clean classrooms," he began. "Before we took you in, she worked at a place called Little Birch. It wasn't just an orphanage. They ran tests on children, kids with talents like yours." Maya's heart pounded. "What kind of tests?" "Cognitive experiments, pattern recognition, engineering puzzles. They never called it that, but it was a lab. And the kids were the subjects. Your mom saw too much. She ran, took you with her." Maya stood up, the room spinning. "Why didn't you ever tell me?" "Because the people behind it were powerful. We didn't know who we could trust." Outside, the wind had picked up. Maya turned toward the door. "Mr. Dalton, was he part of it?" Ray's face darkened. He wasn't back then. But his father? His company funded the entire program. A long silence hung between them. "She left that pendant for you," Ray said. "Said it would help you remember who you are, not just a mechanic's niece, but someone the world tried to silence." Maya looked down at the gear-shaped pendant in her hand. Her fingers trembled slightly. "Then I think it's time I find out why." Across town, in a sleek high-rise office wrapped in glass and steel, Robert Dalton sat alone, the city lights casting long reflections across his desk. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl, about Maya, about Diana. He had barely slept. The investigation he'd asked Marcus to begin was already producing results, and raising far more questions than answers. A soft chime echoed in the room as Marcus's voice buzzed through the speakerphone. "You were right. Diana Johnson worked at Little Birch Orphanage for just over 2 years before it was shut down. Officially, it closed due to financial irregularities. But I dug deeper." Robert leaned forward. "There's sealed documents tied to a company called LBT Holdings. That's a shell. Behind it, Dalton Tech, under your father's signature. He funded the place for something called the Paragon Program." Robert froze. "Paragon?" Marcus continued. "Designed to identify and accelerate children with high cognitive and mechanical potential. Most were orphans, no family, no paper trail." "And Diana?" Robert asked. "She wasn't just staff. She tried to whistleblow. She filed a complaint. Disappeared the next week." Robert stood, his heart hammering. He remembered now. A story buried under years of success and silence. His father had always dismissed questions about that program, calling a failed investment in early talent harvesting. He never told Robert the truth. Find everything you can on the Paragon kids. Especially Maya Johnson. He ended the call and stared out over the city. For the first time in years, the empire his father built felt like it was made of glass. Fragile, breakable, full of cracks. Said next morning, Maya sat in class, struggling to focus. Her teacher was discussing circuits, but her mind was elsewhere, on Uncle Ray's words, on her mother's past, on the pendant now hidden safely in her pocket. When the bell rang, she stepped outside and paused. A black SUV was parked across the street. 2 men in suits leaned on the hood, watching the school. Maya's instinct screamed. She ducked back inside, clutching the strap of her bag tightly. From the hallway window, she watched as one of the men lifted her photo, and showed it to a passing student. She didn't wait. She bolted down the rear hallway and out the back exit, feet pounding the pavement. She ran all the way home, her breath sharp in her chest. Uncle Ray was already outside, phone to his ear. When he saw her, he hung up immediately. "They were at the school," she gasped. "I know," he said. "I saw them too. They're not police." Maya looked up at him, eyes burning. "Then who are they?" Ray opened the door and pulled her inside. "We need help. Real help. He grabbed a slip of paper from the kitchen drawer, a number Diana had written down years ago in case something ever happened. Ray picked up the phone. Hello? Marcus Hayes? My name is Ray Johnson. It's about Little Birch and a girl named Maya. We have proof, and we're ready to talk. The next day, Robert stood in his office, staring at the framed photo of his father on the wall. Howard Dalton, visionary empire builder, and now the center of a secret that has slept beneath Robert's company for over a decade. His assistant buzzed through the intercom. Mr. Dalton, your father just arrived. He's in the conference room. Robert's jaw tightened. Send him in 5 minutes. I need a moment. When Howard entered, he was as commanding as ever. Sharp suit, silver cane, cold eyes. What's so urgent you had me fly in from Florida? Robert gestured to the folder on the table. You lied to me about Little Birch, about Paragon, about Diana Johnson. Howard's eyes narrowed. That was handled years ago. Handled? Robert snapped. You experimented on children, Dad. You disappeared them. One of them, Maya, is alive. She's here. Howard's face didn't change. Then you need to clean it up. Quietly. No, Robert said, standing. I'm not like you. Howard stepped forward. Don't be naive, Robert. Do you know what Maya is? What she could be worth? You think she fixed your car by chance? That's Paragon training. She's a product. She's a person, Robert said, voice shaking. Howard's tone turned icy. We own that data. That bloodline. You let her walk around free, and you're risking everything. The door opened suddenly. Marcus Hayes stepped in, camera slung over his shoulder. Already risking it, he said. We're going public. Behind him, Maya entered, standing tall despite the fear in her eyes. Uncle Ray followed, holding Diana's old journal. Robert looked at her, then back at his father. You're done, Dad. The world's going to know exactly what kind of legacy you built. Howard's mouth opened, but no words came. For the first time in his life, he was speechless. Howard's silence didn't last. He straightened his back, adjusted his cufflinks, and looked Maya dead in the eyes. So you're the prodigy, he said coolly. Project 17, if I remember correctly. Maya didn't flinch. You remember more than that, she replied. You remember the night my mother ran. You remember why. Robert stepped in front of her protectively, but Maya gently pushed past him, facing the man who had tried to erase her. You killed her, she said, voice steady, or made sure she couldn't speak. Howard's expression didn't change, but the twitch in his jaw betrayed him. You think anyone's going to believe you? He sneered. A girl from nowhere, a janitor's daughter? My lawyers will bury this before it makes tomorrow's news cycle. Marcus raised his camera. Not this time, he said. We're live. Howard froze. Marcus pointed to the tiny red light on his camera. Everything you just said, every threat, every name, every lie, it's already streaming. Tens of thousands are watching. Howard bravado cracked for a moment, but he recovered quickly. This is corporate espionage. You've stolen private documents. Illegally recorded me. Robert turned on the screen in the room and began cycling through files. These aren't just documents. They're evidence of unauthorized experiments on minors, adoption fraud, falsified death certificates, and bribery. One by one, images appeared. Forms bearing Howard's signature, security footage from Little Birch, internal memos from Dalton Tech's legal team. Then Robert turned toward Maya. There's one more thing. She nodded, pulling the copper gear pendant from around her neck. With careful fingers, she twisted the center. A soft click sounded as the back popped open, revealing a micro-storage chip. My mother hid this, Maya said. She knew one day I'd need to prove the truth. They loaded the chip. The screen lit up with more files, and then audio. Howard's voice, recorded years ago. The girl has mechanical pattern cognition. Could be military grade. We need to secure her. Diana's a problem. Maya's hands trembled, but she stood firm. You call me a product, she said, but I'm not something you can patent. I'm not your asset. I'm a child you tried to own. The door burst open. Federal agents stepped inside. At their front was Claire Bennett, a prosecutor Marcus had contacted days earlier. "Mr. Howard Dalton," she said, holding up a warrant, "you are under arrest for crimes including child endangerment, unlawful experimentation, obstruction of justice, and conspiracy." Howard's face drained of color. "You will regret this," he muttered. "No," Maya said as the cuffs clicked shut. "You will." In the days that followed, headlines swept the nation. Dalton tech empire collapses after child experimentation scandal. Young black girl exposes billion-dollar secret. Project Paragon. How one orphan brought down a giant. Robert stepped down as CEO, but not in shame, in choice. He held a press conference, standing beside Maya and her Uncle Ray, and announced the creation of a new foundation, the Diana Initiative, named in honor of Maya's mother. "We can't change the past," he said to a sea of cameras, "but we can rebuild the future." Dalton Tech's board dissolved.